Welcome to Daily Armor. Today we're going to be in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, looking at 6 and number 8. There was like one more little word in verse number 8. I like verse number 8 was really just a repeat of verse number 6. When the Lord gives us something, He doesn't usually just give it to us one time, but He repeats it. He doesn't need to repeat Himself, but He does it for me. He does it for you. He doesn't do it for Himself. He does it as a way that He encourages us. He repeats the same things. So a lot of times you'll see in the scripture, you'll have a verse that means something to you, but it'll say it again in another verse, or it'll be maybe the phrase will be just a little bit different, but it's still saying the same thing. And He reminds us over and over again. He doesn't just say He loves us one time, but He says it over and over and over. And so here, I've just kind of been on this little thing where I've been seeing all my weaknesses. I've been noticing all my faults and failures. I've been, looking at all of my situations and circumstances and realizing they look impossible, they feel impossible, they seem impossible. And asking the Lord, Lord, help me and, give me strength, give me strength, give me strength. And just constantly verses keep coming up about being strong in the Lord and in the power of His might. And then this morning, as I was on my Bible app really early this morning, and I was looking through some scripture, and it gives me like a daily devotion in my Bible app. And so I clicked on that daily devotion, and it was this verse. It was Deuteronomy 31, verse number 6. And so let's get into it. So Deuteronomy verse number 6 says, "Be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them." Of them, that could be anything. "For the Lord thy God, He it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee." I love that. I needed to hear that this morning. And yet I was kind of shocked and amazed, and I shouldn't have been shocked and amazed. The Lord always gives us that we need. He always has a word from Himself to us. We need only to seek Him, ask for it. We need only to go to His Word, and we're going to find those words that we need, whether it's encouragement, whether it's discipline, whether it's some instruction, whether it's decision making, whatever it might be. The Lord has what we need, even if it's something we don't want to look at, even if it's something we don't want to face. I've done that from time to time. I've shared with you how the Lord really strongly held me accountable for some disappointment that I was feeling, some things that I was upset about, and He showed me real quickly through the book of Job that I just happened to. It wasn't an accident. It was intentional on God's part, but it was how I accidentally found it. Accident on my part, intentional on His part. And I'm going to the book of, I flipped over and my hand was on the book of Job, and it was in chapter 39, 40, 41, all through there. And God was responding to Job. Job was asking, "Lord, why? What is this all about?" And the Lord was letting Job know, first of all, don't question me. First of all, were you there when I created? Did I need your help? Did I ask your counsel? Were you there when I created everything? Were you there when I decided to, this animal's going to do this? Then, so much scripture. And 3 verses, there was chapters of the Lord talking about, in Genesis, you've got that the Lord created the heaven and the earth. That is wonderful. And we can look out at the heaven and the earth and we can know He made everything. But I'm telling you, when you go and read the book of Job and you go in those later chapters where God is telling Job, were you there when I created? Were you there when the day spring? Were you there when the waves, when I decided that this is as far as they're going to go? Were you there when He made this animal and He made this animal to do this, and the strength that's in the strength that the horse that's in his neck? And do you make him thunder? Did you make him do that? And when He explains the specifics, every little detail that He is explaining, and it just makes creation come alive even more. It was so amazing to read that. And when you read that and you realize that he was in every little detail, not just that he made the animals, but he made them the way they are. He made their instincts be this way. He made them, some carry their young for a short amount of time. Some carry them for a long amount of time. This animal wants to be here. This animal's good for, just every little detail. I love that. I've shared this several times about the strength of the horse is in his neck. And do you make him thunder? And I have shared this with you that I was reading that week, and then that week was also a week when my horse was very sick. And then we had a power outage, and I was trying to find my horse. He was in the backfield. I couldn't see a thing. It was so dark. But he needed his medicine. He was really, really not doing well at all. And he did pass about a month later. But I was hollering for him, and I couldn't see him. But I heard him coming. And it sounded like thunder. He was just bam, bam, bam. He thundered to me. And I realized when I heard that was what I just read. And God's got that way to make his word comes alive. It's alive. It's living. His word is living. And it is for our daily needs. And it just comes alive. And just like that morning devotion today was on be strong and of a good courage. Fear not. The Lord knows that I've got some anxiety going on. The Lord knows that I've dealing with some things and I don't know how to deal with them and I don't know what to do with it. And I'm second guessing myself and I'm looking at every decision I've made over the last year or two and thinking, Lord, is this where I messed it up? Is this what I did wrong? And he gives me this verse and just tells me to be strong. I've been pondering on Bible school. I ordered some Bible school material months ago, looking at it because I always like to see what the lessons are going to be about and ask the Lord, because I don't just want to pick a Bible school. They're all good. They've all got a wonderful message. And just because there's a new Bible school curriculum doesn't mean that I have to use that one. The Lord has showed me time and time again. I've even wrote curriculum. And I always try to ask the Lord, is this what you want for us for this year? And when the Bible school came in the mail several months ago, I just kept looking through it and reading it, and it's really good. It's all about Jesus. It's really good. You can't get much better than being about Jesus. But when I was asking, Lord, is this what we're supposed to use this year? It just didn't seem like that it was what we're supposed to use. And I was like, confused. I'm like, Lord, then what are we supposed to use? What do you want our theme to be this year? And I like to plan. I like to plan things way out. And the Lord, he doesn't do things on my timetable just because I like to plan things out. And I like to, I foresee this coming and I've got like a little window here and a little window there. And I'm trying to, get my mind, wrapped around some things while I have a moment. And I wasn't hearing anything. I didn't know, if that was it. And so I kept looking at it and I'd set it aside and I'd look at it again, another day, and then I'd set it aside. And finally I was just like, Lord, I don't even know if we're supposed to have Bible school. I don't even know what we're supposed to do. And I like having it early, and it's hard to have it later in the summer because we have so many storms. And, I was just all these questions that I had. And then the last couple of weeks, it was just this being strong in the Lord just keeps coming over and over and over in my mind. And as I was doing that, then I realized, and through preparing for the adult luncheon the other day, it was going to be tailored around fathers, and I was looking in the scripture for these men that were strong and that were courageous, and their strength and their courage didn't come from themselves. They were even smaller than a lot of the people that they were going up against. They were, the nation was smaller than the other nations. They were smaller in size than other nations. They were smaller in stature than another nations. But yet, God said, go. That's what he's telling here. This is a message that Moses has given Joshua. He's telling Joshua, don't be afraid. You're going to go into the promised land and you're going to lead these people. And it's going to look intimidating. But the Lord's got a message for you, and he's saying, be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of what's coming. Don't be afraid of the enemy. And as I was preparing, for, Father's Day, and thinking about the good godly men and the godly men that are leading their homes and their country and their families, all this, and there was so many examples. I really was shocked. I'm just be honest. When we think about a lot of people in the scriptures, sometimes our first thought is to think about their mistakes, and we all make them. But when you really, really study a lot of these men out, there is so many men and women, I'm telling you, so many more women than you think they are as well, that are strong in the Lord. Their strength, they went forward because of what God said. They knew they didn't move until God said move. And they went when God said, when God said, okay, now it's time. And then they go forth, not because they were so strong, not because they were so courageous, but okay, Lord, I'm not going if you're not going. You have to be with me. And the Lord will say, but I'm going to be with you. That's what he's telling us here today, that he's going to be with us. He's not going to leave us. If you've ever been left behind, and I've been left behind, if you have ever been dropped off and left behind, and I'm telling you, me and my siblings, we all have, every one of us experienced that at some point in our childhood, of being left. Here, I'm gone, don't know when I'll see you, might be a year, might be a year and a half, might be never. And every one of us experienced that. When you have been left as a child, and I'm sure there is so many of you that are out there that have been like that, like myself, you have been left. That some other family was chosen over you, or some other person was chosen over you, or selfishness was chosen over you, that parent chose their self and what they wanted over what was best for you, and left you to figure it out on your own, left you to, grow up at the age of 7 years old, and or 16 years old or 17 years old or whatever the age might have been. And then, or even have this tendency to come back and forth and show up and then leave again, and you just never knew, we just never knew. But we were used to being left. And when you're used to being left, then as a child, then as an adult, you have this tendency to still think that you're going to be left. And you're going to be left alone. And the Lord said, not just once, but twice, and he says it over and over and over in his word, in this section and that section, and this situation and that situation. He says, be strong and of a good courage. Be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. He will not. He's not an earthly person that I fail. I forsake. I give up. I get discouraged. He's not that way. The Lord does not do that. He's God. He's holy. He's righteous. He's everywhere. He's everything. He's everything to me, and he's everything to you. If you know him as your Lord and Savior, he is everything to you, and he is going to be everything for you. I love this. It says that be strong. When I looked that up, and y'all know I love definitions. I love, I should have been maybe an English major or something, but I can't speak good English, so probably was good that I didn't. But it says be strong, means to strengthen, prevail, harden. When you think about being strong, sometimes you just have to just be hardened. And sometimes I feel like when I'm being hardened that I'm feeling that I am having a hard attitude or a bad attitude, but it's not. It's about that. It's about that being determined, being courageous, firm, resolute. I love some more of these definitions. I love them. Secure, stout, rigid, sustain, just sustain, support. I like this one as well, repair. Look within, look where my weaknesses are, and the Lord's saying you need to repair some things, whether it's an attitude, whether it's this fear that's in the back of your mind and you're kind of holding on to it. You need to repair that. You need to make that, you need to contain. You need to contain it. You need to repair it. Be strong and of a good courage. Courage is that being alert, physically and mentally being alert, realizing that sometimes that the enemy is not that thing in front of you, but the enemy is in that spiritual realm, and that's the enemy that you can't see. And you need to see who the true enemy is and be alert to that and be aware of that. Be determined. This is what courage means. Be determined and be brave. Nor be afraid of them. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. Fear not. So I like that word fear. When I think about fearing the Lord, it means to stand in awe, to literally be afraid of the Lord, because we're in amazement of how wonderful the Lord is. When you read those later chapters of the book of Job, you cannot read those, and the Lord is describing how he made so many things, specific things, made them just the way he wanted them. And when you're reading that, you're just like, oh my goodness, you are amazing. Just the detail in what he shared. It just makes you think there's not an enemy out there. There's not an obstacle out there. There's not a circumstance out there that God is not in control of, because he's in control of every single little detail. And he tells us to fear not. So this is, don't stand in awe of them. Don't dread them. Don't be afraid of them or that or whatever it might be in your circumstance or in my circumstance. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of being left. Don't be afraid of people walking out. Don't be afraid of this circumstance or that circumstance, or that obstacle that just looks, it just looks like it's not movable, it's not conquerable. Don't look at that besetting sin that you feel like you just can't get away from. Don't look at that and fear it. Don't be in awe of it. Oh, but it has such a pull on me, Lord. But you're being in awe of it. I'm being in awe of it when I'm like, Lord, I can't give that up. It has such a pull. I can just look at it. I can just hear it. I can, and it's just got such a pull. He's like, no. Don't stand in awe of them, of that. We're going to he wants us to stand in awe of him. He is a jealous God, and he doesn't want us to be in awe of anything or anybody or any circumstance. Even those things those storms, and we know he made the wind, he made the water, and, the all that. He made all that, and yet those circumstances can come into our lives, and a storm is created, and he doesn't want us to be afraid of the storm. Why? Because he's in charge of that. We're to be in awe of him. And when I get myself lined up correctly and I'm in awe of him, and that means I'm not over here running that squirrel. I'm not over here running that rabbit. I'm not over here and bebopping around and getting, caught off guard, but I am staying close to the shepherd. And I am looking at him and realizing that I'm only to be in awe of him. And all this other stuff is like, well, okay, Lord, this is going to be hard. This is going to be difficult. And he wants me to, get firmed up, repair some things. We need to be ready, get some support, gather up, your strength, because you need to prevail. You need to be firm, be resolute about some things, be resolved. I am resolved no longer to linger. He's saying, fear not, nor be afraid of them. That being afraid goes from that we're looking at them with awe, like, oh my gosh, that's so strong, to where it causes us to tremble in fear, to be afraid, to oppress. It causes us to tremble to where we freeze or we retreat. We want to flee or freeze, but the Lord wants us to fight, stand firm, stand and see Him, be in awe of Him, wait on Him. And that, like I've already said about the them is the true enemy. It's maybe not that person in your life that's giving you trouble, or that circumstance in your life that's giving you trouble, or that obstacle that's in front of you that's giving you trouble, but it's a combination of all of those things. It could be any circumstance, any storm, anything that's just this causing you to tremble and to feel defeated before you even get started. The Lord's saying, don't do that. Push that aside, push that away. Look at Him, because that's where our strength's going to come from. That's where our courage is going to come from. It's going to come from Him. And He says, why? For the Lord thy God, He it is that doth go with thee. Now, when you're out here on your own, you're a target. When you're out here on your own, you don't have enough strength by yourself. That's why the Lord puts us together. You'll have friends that'll be along your side. You may be like me, and you don't really have that many. Close friends, you don't maybe have that many, but that's okay. Even just a few, even like being at home and just, me and my spouse, we're to strengthen one another. If I fall, He's going to help me get up. If he falls, I'm going to help him get up. If we both fall, then we lean on each other until we get ourselves, back up. But we need others. But ultimately, it's who the Lord puts in our life. Ultimately, it's really just Him. Even if it's just you. Paul said this. He said that no man, all forsook Him. That nobody stood with Him at this point in his life. Maybe that there was some that wanted to, but they couldn't be there, because we're not God. We can't be everywhere at the same time. Maybe we had, maybe that his friends had obstacles. Maybe that there was for whatever reason, he was targeted and brought out alone, because that's what the enemy likes to do. The enemy likes to separate us from our families, separate us from our friends. He likes to separate us from those people that we do life with, that we do ministry with. He wants to separate us. And Paul felt that. He experienced that. He was separated. And then he was targeted. And he said, no man stood with me, but the Lord stood with him. That all had forsaken, but the Lord stood with him. And if that's all we have, then that's all we need. Because we should be in awe of Him. Even if it's just you and God, and you're surrounded by the enemy, He's with you. That's all you need. It says, He it is that doth go with thee. When I was reading this morning, the Lord gave me a song when we moved to Florida. Before the Lord officially, made it perfectly clear to my husband that yes, He's moving us to Florida. When it was just this, this first, the Lord's saying, I want you to talk to him. I want you to pursue this. I want, and my husband, which was also my pastor, and he was like, I'm confused, and what does this mean? Why are we doing this? And in the middle of all that, and I'm watching this take place, I'm watching this conversation that my husband is having with the Lord, and the questions that he has, and the not sure, not confident in himself at all. But in the midst of all that, the Lord gave me a song. But Todd had brought home a CD. He never does that. He never buys me things just out of the blue. Very rare, ever. I'm telling you, very rare. And I've been with him for over 30 years. Very, very rare. And he brought me this CD, and I'm like, I felt like it was not from him as much as it was from the Lord. And the title of the CD was I'll Go With You. this beautiful couple from the mountains up in our area, and they had this CD, and I loved it. I listened to it. I sang the song, the title song. I was singing it in the kitchen. Like immediately when I heard the song, it was what I needed. My second son Hayden come walking in the kitchen, and he heard me singing it, and he just picks up the guitar and he's like picking it out. He was just doing it. So we were just started, and then I was writing the words down, and we ended up singing it at church. Probably that Sunday, if not at least by the next week, but possibly even like that very Sunday. I think he brought it home on a Friday. I'm singing it on Friday. I'm singing it on Saturday, and we may have sung it on Sunday morning. It was just that strong that I needed that song, and the Lord was saying, He was letting me know, I'll go with you, even in the valley, even when it gets hard, even when it gets difficult. He says, I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to leave you. Your dad may have left you. I'm not going to leave you. I will not leave you. He's like, that's His promise to me. That's His promise to you, is no matter what you are going through, what circumstance, how it looks like it's never going to get fixed, like it's never going to be remedied, like you're never going to get through it. The Lord is saying, be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them or it, or whatever the circumstance might be. Don't be afraid of the storm. Don't be afraid of the diagnosis. Don't be afraid of the obstacle. Don't be afraid of the besetting sin that you feel like you can't overcome. Don't be afraid of that enemy that's in your life that you feel like that you're never going to get through this. Don't be afraid of that, anything. For the Lord thy God, He it is that doth go with thee. He is with you, and He says He's not going to fail, and He's not going to forsake. He will not fail thee. I like that in the definition of fail. It means He will not cease. He will not relax. He will not let it drop. He will not abandon you. He will not be disheartened by the situation and walk away. He will not withdraw Himself from the situation because it's just getting too much for Him, and He can't take it, and He's just going to walk away. Others may have walked away. Others may have not even wanted to, and through an accident or something like that, they just weren't there, and they couldn't be. I mean, I feel like a lot of times in Paul's situations, there was people that would have wanted to be by his side, but then they just couldn't. But it was so that the Lord would let Paul know, hey, but even when they don't want to, or even when they can't, I'm here with you, and I'm all you need. And he says that He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. He will not leave. He will not depart. He will not leave you behind, and He will not neglect us. We are not going to be neglected. And then here in verse number 8, I want to skip down to verse number 8. Let me find it here in the scriptures. And the Lord, He it is that doth go before thee. That does go before thee. That song, I'll go with you. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to go to Florida, but if you're going, that's where I want to go. And He says, I'm going to go with you. And He says, I'm going to go before you. In other words, He's prepared some things before us. We know He's coming back. He had to go to heaven. He's there. What's He doing in heaven? He's preparing a place for me and for you. And then when it's time, He's gonna say, you're going to come join me. And He says, but I didn't leave you alone, because He left us the Comforter. He didn't leave us alone. Even when He's there, He's here. He can be everywhere at the same time. And I just love that. Even like looking at that, for the Lord thy God, when you talk about the Lord, that means Jehovah God. And then thy God, I love this in the definition. It said it was a plural intensive form. It was just like a singular but plural. God is singular but plural. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Singular but all one. One God. Three persons. One God. Plural, intensive, singular form. God. And he's with us, and He goes before. That's why He can be with us, and He can go before us. He it is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not. All these things that He's already said in verse number 6. Neither be dismayed. Neither be dismayed. Don't be shattered. Dismayed means like you're being disassembled, like you've just been torn down, being broken down, being beaten down. What was another word? Oh, confused and fearful. And I think that that's something that we all have to battle with, is not letting ourselves get confused and fearful. Confused, and then we just, we get shattered. We have those moments, that those phone calls or that information or that diagnosis or that whatever, and it just shatters us. He's saying, don't be dismayed about that. Don't be dismayed about that. Be strong. Get firm. Be resolute. Be secure, not in yourself. My security isn't in me. It's not about my strength. How can I be strong when I'm not strong? I ask the Lord for His strength. I'm tapping into His strength. He's the source of my strength. He's the source of my everything. He's the source of my courage. How can we be courageous when it's an obstacle that we can't do nothing about? We can be courageous based on what God says. He says, but if He says go, if He says, you've got to, this is an obstacle you're going to have to face up to. You're going to have to, face some fears in your life. How can I face those fears and do it correctly? I'm going to rely on Him. I've got to go back to, what did God say about it? What is He telling me about it? And right now He's telling me to be strong, and I don't know how to be strong, but in Him, be strong in the Lord and the power of His might. Ephesians, that's just such a wonderful verse. And of a good courage. He wants me to be courageous. He wants you to be courageous. He doesn't want us to fear. He doesn't want us to tremble. He doesn't want us to be dismayed, broken down, shattered. He doesn't want us to be shattered by whatever it is, because He wants us to be confident that because He is with us, because He is going before us, He's preparing some things for us. He's got the plans are all laid out, and we can go forward, and we can be firm and strong and be courageous because He's with us. And that He promises, even if it looks like, even if it feels like, even if it seems like He's gone, He's not. He says, I will be there. He says, I will not fail you. I will not stop. I will not cease. I will not relax. I will not let it drop. I will not abandon you. I will not withdraw myself from this circumstance. I will be with you. And that's how we can be strong and of a good courage. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon.